Hi, I'm John Paul Raj. In this particular video, we begin with question number 1 from paper 3, May 2025, time zone 1 for IB Math Applications and Interpretations. Go get your calculator. Let's get started. So this is question number 1. A little tip when you're doing questions from paper 3, make sure you highlight some words. One tip is that I always tell students, you just keep going back and forth, okay? Because the context of the question needs to be understood. And especially if you're in applications and interpretations, you need to be able to answer questions in the context, all the more in paper 3 than, as much as possible in paper 1 and paper 2, the kind of reasoning, the way you show your understanding, it's amplified more in paper 3. So when you're reading the questions, just go slow, understand, and it's something that I always tell students. I use the phrase back and forth. Probably when you read the question, let's say you're solving something in F, sometimes you might have to just even go back and check what did you do before. Everything that you did in the earlier parts will probably get, probably get replayed, in the following parts also. So having said that, that's exactly how I'm going to read this question. Okay, so let's read along. It says the following question explores how sequences, series, and Markov chains may be used in modeling the number of customers in a commercial setting. That's great. In a town, there are 3 stores: Aroma, Bodega, Clover. Okay, Aroma, Bodega, and Clover. Ashley is the manager of Aroma. She gathers data to determine whether there is significant movement of customers between the 3 stores over the course of 1 year. She found that, okay, now you can see that, we are using some idea from Markov chains here very quickly. You can see that 91% of Aroma customers stayed with Aroma, 5% moved to Bodega, and 4% moved to Clover. All right, 94% of Bodega customers stayed with Bodega, 4% moved to Aroma, and 1% moved to Clover. And 92% of Clover customers stayed with Clover, 6% moved to Aroma, and 2% moved to Bodega. This information is used to form a transition matrix T. Write down the transition matrix T, and it's for 3 points. Okay, let's just quickly do that. Do we have space here? Even if there's no space, I don't think there's space provided for paper 3. Make sure that you answer each question on a separate sheet of paper. That's just another quick tip. You start a question on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, so even if you're continuing question number 1, several subparts, and you finish, let's say, the last subpart, in this case, I think 1K, let's say 1K you finished at the start of another new paper, a new extra sheet that you're doing, then just stop there, put a line, and then ask the teacher, ask the supervisor, whoever supervises the exam, ask for another sheet. So every question, make sure you start in a new paper. Okay, that's one of the requirements, or one of the I won't call it rules, but one of the suggestions. Okay, answer both questions. Can you see that? Answer both questions in the answer booklet provided. Please start each question on a new page. Can you see that? And that's why I said what I said. All right, please start a new question on a new page. All right, having said that, let's just start. We need to write the transition matrix for part A. I'm going to do it here. Okay, this is question number 1, part A, transition matrix. And I'm just going to use this bracket. You can use any bracket. And from, I always tell my students, this is from. Okay, so if I were to label this as A, B, and C for Aroma, Bodega, and what is that C for? Clover. All right, and the same way you can have that A, B, and C here. That's A, B, and C. The rows and the columns always represent from, the state that they are from. So that's why I wrote the word from. Okay, and here the rows are representing to. Okay, so it's from A to A, from A to A. That means that ones that stay in A, from A to A. This entry would represent from A to B, from A to B. Okay, that's how to be read. So every column is from and every row is to. Okay, so those are just some tips there. I'm going to enter the values as they're given, and you have to enter it as decimals. Okay, so if it says 91% of Aroma stayed with Aroma, we just write there 0.91. Okay, then it says 5% moved to Bodega, and we write down 0.05. Hope these numbers are clear. And 4% moved to Clover. All right, 2, right? So from A to Clover. Did they say 4 or 2? I'll write 4 and then check. 4 was correct. Okay, 95% of Bodega stayed with Bodega. 95 stayed with Bodega. So from B to B, so that's 95. That's 0.95 will be here. Then what do we have? 4% moved to Aroma, 0.04 out here. And 1% moved to Clover, 0.01. What about Clover? 92% of Clover stays with Clover. Did they say 90 or 92? 92. 92, 0.92 is here. And 6 moved to Aroma, 0.06. And 2% moved to Bodega. Okay, so 0.02. Okay. So keep this in mind. As you can see, you can see all of this. This is the transition matrix. This is just part A, and you've got 3 points just like that. Okay, no way you can miss out on 3 points just like that. Okay, so that's just the transition matrix. Part B. Let's move on to part B. But read what's coming up before that. It is assumed that the movement of customers between stores remain constant from year to year. It is assumed, that's an assumption being made, that the movement of customers every year, you know, the rate at which they move, the number of customers that they move, the percentage of customers that move remains constant is what they're saying. Determine, part B says, determine the percentage of Clover customers expected to move to Aroma over a 5-year period. There's 4 points for that. All right. Determine the percentage. Okay, you want to write it as a percentage. So even though we're going to use the graphing calculator in a bit, okay, so even though you're entering it as a decimal value, and when you calculate t to the power 5, right, they said 5-year period. Okay, so obviously you're going to calculate the 5th power of that matrix T. Okay, obviously when you're writing your answer, you don't have to write down the ABC. You can just write down as a matrix. Just quickly put that thing here. So T can be written as a matrix. Even in such a bracket, it doesn't have to be the rectangular bracket. Okay, you can write it as 0.91, 0.05, 0.04, 0.04, 0.95, 0.01, and here we can write 0.06, 0.02, 0.92. That's all that needs to be reported for part A. Is that clear? You don't need to. That was just for me explaining, okay, how to write a transition matrix. 3 points in a pocket. Now 4 points by finding the 5th power and correctly writing as a percentage. Okay, determine the percentage of Clover customers expected to move to Aroma. Clover customers from to. So we are obviously going to look at this entry once we raise it to the 5th power. So I'm going to do the part B here adjacent. So here we go, part B. All right. So clearly we want t to the power of 5. Okay, using GDC, we'll write it up there. Using GDC. And so let me just quickly switch to the calculator now. And here first we are going to define, okay, we're going to define the, whether you write capital T or small t, the GDC, the TI just converts, or, you know, you'll see, it'll just take the lowercase. I don't know why it does that, okay? So you go to the matrices, which is on menu. You can go matrices and vectors. You can create a matrix. That's a 3 by 3 matrix we need. So 3 and 3. Make sure you enter the, entered correctly, okay? You should not be, all I'm trying to say is you should not be losing points on this, and especially in the exam setting, if you're concerned about the time, you know, because time's ticking away, 0.91, 0.05, you know, things can happen, you can make a mistake. So be very careful when you're entering, because the answers are based on what you enter, right? 0.04, 0.95, and what do I have here? 0.01. and 0.06, and what's here? 0.02, and this is 0.92. Give me a second. All right, once you do that, you have defined it, and as I said, that it turns into a lowercase, right? Even if you put capital letter, matrices are to be labeled in capital letters, by the way. That's a normal thing, but I don't know why the TI just goes into small letters. Okay, once you said that, this is stored. In an earlier video, I said I was using the matrices just for that one particular part, and so there was no need to store it. This time, there's a paper 3, you will need to use it several times, so it's better to store it. And we want to find t to the power of 5, remember, because the question said, determine the percentage of Clover customers expected to move to Aroma over a 5-year period, expected to move. Okay, so that's a transition matrix. Let's quickly find the power of t to the power of 5, okay? And when I do that, There you go. That's the matrix. Okay. Let's just copy these numbers as it is, and then we look at this entry. That's the entry from C to A, from C to A. Okay. So let me just switch back to my calculator, and t to the power of 5. Notice I wrote it to the capital letter. Okay. And we will write down the values as 0.6. My 0 looks something else. 0.659, 0.196, 0.146, 0.156, 0.792, 0.051, and 0.219, 0.101, and this is 0.68. And let's look at the question one more time to confirm that that's what we're looking for. It's asked, determine the percentage of Clover customers expected to move to Aroma over a 5-year period. So Clover customers moving to Aroma, that's the entry. Okay. And remember, they asked to write in as a percentage using the same phrase. Okay. Determine okay. So we'll say over a 5-year period, what's that? 21.9. So we can write it down as over a 5-year period, 21.9% of Clover customers are expected to move to Aroma. Okay, make sure you get into the habit of writing the correct sentences, the correct responses in sentences and words. But keep in mind the context of the question. Use the language that's present in the question. Okay, that'll help. So basically, we're looking at how many people from Clover are expected to move to Aroma, and therefore, as I explained earlier, this is from the columns in 2. If we looked at that entry and said that is 0.219 as a decimal, but as a percentage, it is 21.9. So that's all the time that we have for this particular video. I'm going to continue solving this question in another video, but don't forget to like, share this video with your friend, and subscribe to my channel. If you visit my channel, there are several other videos there. Do check them out. And if you have any question or topic that you'd like explained, do mention that in the comments and I'll make a video for you.